Hi folks, Mark here, Views from Mark. As always, I hope you're keeping safe, healthy and are well wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this episode 4 of Operation Exploding Pen, which is my mini-series, if you like, documenting the journey that I've been on with this copy of Daniel Craig's Bond by Greg Williams, as I try to acquire signatures of some of the key individuals not only associated with the book, but also Bond. So if you haven't seen episodes 1, 2 and 3, I thoroughly recommend that you go back through my channel and check those out. You'll be able to see how I went on the process of getting Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson to sign the book at their offices in Eon House. Next up, we had a fantastic meeting with Mr. Reynold Ashleyman, who's actually the president and CEO of Omega Watches, who gifted me this copy of the book. And that first meeting led on to such a wonderful connection and networking opportunity, and actually being invited out to Switzerland at his invitation to see their HQ in Biel and to have a fantastic time there. Episode 3, of course, was that of finding Mr. Greg Williams and going to his studio, dropping the book off and having him sign the book, which meant there was only one signature left to get, that of Mr. James Bond himself, aka Daniel Craig. Now, this wasn't going to be an easy mission, as I always knew, but as it turned out, I needed to have my passport ready for this one. So let's take a look at the mission briefing and let's get to it. So there we go. As you can see from the mission briefing, it was pretty much a blank slate. I knew that it was going to be incredibly hard to get in contact with Daniel Craig or his representatives, and I had no idea where to start. Matthew Gibbs, who also has a copy of the book and has the same signatures that I do, however his version is dedicated to Matthew, mine is without, he had been trying to get in contact with Daniel Craig's agent and what have you for about a year, maybe a little bit longer, and had no luck, no success, hadn't even had a reply. So bearing that in mind, after getting Greg's signature, I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to have a break. Everything has gone so well up to this point, considering it was only February, March time 2023 that I first contacted Eon, and within a month I had Barbara and Michael's signature. Following on from that, pretty soon, within a couple of weeks, met with Reynold and had his signature, and then in July last year, 2023, managed to get Greg's signature. At that point, I thought, this has been really straightforward, to be honest. So I'm going to have a little break from it and just enjoy the experience of having got the signatures that I've got up to that point, get the series out there on YouTube, which I did, and I did nothing more with it until February 2024. I started to think it's nearly a year since I contacted Eon Productions, and they very kindly agreed to get Barbara and Michael to sign the book to begin with. I thought I might have a possibility here to send them an email, give them an update on everything that's happened since that point, tell them about Switzerland, tell them about getting Greg's signature, and then maybe ask if there's any pointers they can give me of how best to try and get in contact with Daniel. So that's what I did. And lo and behold, I sent an email giving them an update on what had happened so far with the signatures, and then said I'd hit pretty much a bit of a brick wall, going on to say to them if there's any possibility they could give me pointers in the right direction. Maybe Daniel has a publicist that might be willing to speak with me or, email me about this. I'd be really appreciative. Sent the email, 2-3 days went past, hadn't heard anything, and then I think it was late on a Thursday afternoon or early evening, I got an email through from Eon saying, "Hi Mark, can't believe it's been a year already since Barbara and Michael signed. Congratulations on the journey so far and getting the other signatures. I'm really pleased to tell you that Daniel has agreed to sign your copy of the book." Now at this point, as you can imagine, I was buzzing. My jaw hit the floor and I was elated. And then I read on a bit more and they said, if you can ship your book to New York, we will arrange for Daniel to sign it and then it will get shipped back to you. Now that was a great offer. It's certainly not something I was expecting. At best, I was hoping for a nudge in the right direction or maybe an email to contact about this, not to have it arranged where They'd already spoken and he'd agreed to sign the book. However, shipping a book of this value, of its rarity and its uniqueness, because it's the only one in the world that has all those signatures without a dedication, it wasn't something that I was overly keen to do, to have the book just shipped across the Atlantic, not knowing where it would end up for certain, how it would be treated in transit, etc. So as it happens, at the start of the year, I was actually looking at doing a holiday, and New York was one of the options that I'd been speaking with one of my friends about. So when they came back and said, if you can ship it to New York, we'll get it sorted, that seemed like fate trying to intervene. So I said to my friend, how would you feel about doing a trip to New York as we discussed, and also I can get my book signed at the same time? They said they were up for that. So I contacted Eon again and I said, look, I really appreciate the offer. It's not what I was expecting, but I'm so grateful for it. I'm actually looking at going to New York for this particular week in March. If it's possible, could I courier the book myself? I'll deliver it to that address. It can be signed. I'll go and pick it up whenever it's done, and I can take it back with me when I return to the UK. Sent that email, wondering what would come back, but I did get an email back and they basically said they'd spoken to Daniel's personal assistant and said, yes, that's absolutely fine. All I needed to do was let them know which hotel I'd be staying at. They would come, collect the book, and then return it before I was due to leave to come back to the UK. So at this point I thought, fantastic again, an unbelievable result that I wasn't counting on, didn't expect, but I thought, I'm going to ask one final question. Now, Matthew Gibbs, who also has a copy of the book, has the same signatures with a dedication. We've been on the same kind of journey, getting these signatures roughly over the same sort of time. We obviously met Reynold together. We went to Switzerland when he invited us out there to Amiga's HQ. So I felt it only right and proper that I contact Matthew ahead of time and say, this is going to be happening. But before I did that, I wanted to email Eon and ask them if I offered to courier Matt's book as well, would Daniel be happy to sign both at the same time? They came back and said absolutely no problem. So at that point I contacted Matthew and let him know what was going on. I said I was looking to go out to New York anyway. I'm happy to courier your book as well and have it picked up at the same time, have it signed, etc., and then return it to him once I got back to the UK. He actually had some time off work coming up and he said, well, if you're happy for me to come along, why don't we all go? So in the end, that's what we ended up doing. So Operation Live and Let Fly, if you have been following my YouTube channel, was my trip to New York. But the real reason for that trip, which I didn't tell anyone, was because of getting Daniel Craig to sign this book. So I flew out to New York with my friend Fiona, with Matthew. We only booked the tickets about a week and a half beforehand. We got to New York and it was arranged that the morning after we landed, Daniel's personal assistant would come to the hotel in the morning and pick up the books and then return them, hopefully, before we were due to leave to come back to the UK the following Monday evening. So Thursday morning in the hotel reception, Matthew and I are waiting there with our books packaged up nicely with a thank you letter to her and to Daniel and a little gift as well. And we met with the personal assistant who was lovely, who was surprised and grateful for the thank you letter and the gift. And unbelievably, I had an email that afternoon as myself, Fiona and Matt were sat in an Irish bar having a nice refreshing beverage near Times Square. I got an email on my phone to say, really happy to say that the books are back at your hotel. It was all done and dusted within a day. As easy as that. I still cannot believe it. I can't get my head around it, but managed to get back to the hotel fairly quickly, as you can imagine, finished the beers, got back to the hotel. I'll put in a couple of still images of the evening when I was opening the box again that contained the books, and then also my book. You can see the surprise and the excitement on my face because I genuinely couldn't believe that the experience had happened as easily as it had gone as smoothly as it had, and that now, in a hotel room in New York on the 21st of March, a year to the day actually, since I met Reynold in London, I now had Daniel Craig's signature. So I know you're all dying to see what has he signed inside, so let's take a look. So there we have it. I mean, it never gets old, the excitement at seeing this collection of signatures in this book, and the culmination of just over a year's journey, basically going through trying to get these signatures for this book. Now, I said, going out to New York, I didn't tell anyone the reason for my trip. However, whilst I was in New York, I did meet up with my good friend David Zaritsky, aka The Bond Experience, and a host of other people that he'd arranged us to hang out with in the evening. And during the day, I just had to tell David and show him the photo of these signatures, and he was overjoyed. We then went for dinner in the evening at a tapas restaurant with Mike Poplawski, Kyle Barbeau, Joe Darlington, and Alex Lamas, and I was able to share the news with them because, as you can imagine, I was pretty excited about what had happened and the real reason for my trip to New York. As wonderful as it was to see those guys and hang out, and I wish I was still back there doing that, to be able to share the news firsthand and the journey and the story about how I got to that point, and then being sat in the restaurant with them toasting with champagne, it was magical. So this is it, 5 signatures. The 5 that I originally set out to get, I've now completed it. And that really does complete Operation Exploding Pen. The only other thing that I might do, which I need to do, to be fair, is to get the book valued for insurance purposes. This is a one of a kind. At the time of recording this video, and having had discussions with Greg's studio, with Eon and with Reynold, asking how many of these books do they actually sign, and the answer being not many, and when they have signed they haven't seen other signatures on there other than Matthew's. I believe, at the time of recording this, this is the only copy in the world that has these 5 signatures without a dedication, and that is something I'm going to treasure forever, as well as the memories of the past year and a half, 2 years actually, over 2 years if you count the journey up to actually being gifted a copy of this book. They're memories that I'm going to hold on to forever, much like this book, and I'm going to enjoy it. So thank you very much for watching this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you can hit the bell notification button so you get a notice whenever I post something new. Whatever the next journey is, whatever the next challenge is, this one is going to take a lot of beating, but I'm sure there's plenty more adventures out there to be had. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, stay well. I'll catch you all very soon. Bye for now.